Hey guys, we're back. We had a lot of comments, people, shooting us some messages on wanting to learn more about how I set my rods up, what rods I have, what reels that I like, why do I like the reels that I have. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over it. I'm gonna start with the rod and the reel that I use personally 98% of the time when I'm out jigging. Right here this is a Temple Reef Elevate rod. The rod length is 6'9", and this goes for 150 to a 350 gram jig. The rod is also spiral wrapped, so the eyes on a spiral wrap, most people know this, some don't, so I'm gonna go over it. They start on the top of the blank, and then as you start going down towards the tip, these eyes start to rotate. And then by the time you get to the very tip of the rod, the eye is on the opposite side of your reel blank, of your reel on the blank. And what that does is, if you've got a little bit of wind in your face on the day that you're jigging, or if you drop your rod too fast, if the line gets up onto the back of the blank, you can drop the tip a little bit and that line will feed back off without getting tangled on the eyes. So then if you get a bite when that happens, there's less likelihood of something breaking, an eye getting ripped off, or one of those things. On my rod, I've got a Shimano Osea.
Osea.
It's a 2000 series. The reason I like this, as you can see, it's got a very narrow spool on it. And I've got 30-pound J braid that I put on this reel. The way that I hold it is, it's got a conventional reel seat. So it's got a reel seat trigger right there. I'll take my ring finger and put on that trigger. I'll take my middle finger and put on the back side of the reel right there. I'll take my pointer finger and put on the top. So then I have two fingers on the back of the reel, one on the bottom, and then my thumb is on the top of the spool. The thumb on top of the spool for me does several things. One, when I'm letting the jigs out, you have to keep pressure on that for when you're feeding out the line to keep the jig vertical down, so then it's dropping to the bottom as fast as possible. So I'll put just a little bit of pressure on it, is all it takes to keep that jig dropping straight to the bottom. Then also the other reason I keep my thumb right there when I'm fishing, I tend to keep a lighter drag than what some other people do. So the reason I keep a lighter drag is, if the fish wants to take a hard run, I can use my thumb and put pressure down, and knowing in my head about where my tackle is going to be at its utmost potential of breaking, I can let some of that pressure off. Or if I'm just cranking the drag down, all of that pressure is going straight onto my tackle, and I don't have a whole lot of control over what's going on with that. When you're jigging, you're going to hold the reel, and then you're going to take the rod. These jigging rods have a very long butt section. You're going to take that and tuck it up under your arm. And what this is going to do is your arm going to your hand and going to the rod is all going to act as one when you're jigging. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take it, pull up, and that's going to pull the jig up. Then when you let down, that's going to allow those jigs to start fluttering and doing the action that they do to cause the fish to come up and bite. And then once you do get that bite, you're going to go from this position to bringing it under your arm and then allowing your reel to fight the fish. You're not going to put this in a fish fighting stance and high stick the rod and reel him down. you're going to put them here, and this goes back to my thumb being on top of the spool. The reel is going to be a winch for you. So you're just going to sit here and turn the reel and let the reel bring that fish up off of the bottom. And a lot of guys have asked me, Ben, you're using such a light line, you're using a light drag, how are you not constantly getting rocked up and these fish pulling you to the bottom, staying on the bottom, and you can't get them up? And the reason that is because a lot of times when you get these fish on, you're going to be 6, 10, 15 feet, 20 feet off the bottom before you ever get bit. So you've already got a little bit of leeway that a lot of guys that are, if they're dropping live bait down, they might do 1 turn, 2 turns, and bring that thing up 4 or 5 feet. A lot of times with this, you're going to be 10, 12, 15 feet before you ever get that bite. So then, once you get that bite, the fish are going to want to dig back down, and you kind of just got to don't let them go down, and you're going to try to get line back there in that first 2 seconds as much as you can, and then you're going to let the fish kind of settle down a little bit, and just let that reel do its job. And in comparison, I've got a Maxell jigging rod here. This is a 60 to 150 gram jig. And this rod's not spiral wrapped. So all of the eyes are on the top of the blanket. All the way down. Everything is all on the same side. This has a Shimano Torium 20 on it. As you can see, this reel is much wider than the other one. So in comparison, there's the 2 reels side by side. I've got rather big hands, so for me, I can still get my hand around this reel fairly decently. The problem is you have a hard time manipulating the line, getting it back and forth without really trying to manipulate your hand in some kind of uncomfortable fashion. The rod still works the same way. This one doesn't have the exposed blank on it. It's got a enclosed blank the whole way, but you still hold that rod the same way. One thing a lot of people have started doing lately, doing shallow water fishing, some of the micro jigging that's started coming out and starting to become a big thing lately, is a lot of people have started using these bigger bait casters. This is a 4000 series of a Piscifun that one of my friends gave me for my birthday. I haven't set it up. I don't even have it on a jigging rod yet. But I plan on using this for inshore shallow water things. Maybe during the winter time in North Carolina, we get some shallow water sea bass. So that's kind of what I plan on doing with that. Shallow water sea bass, having a little bit of fun. On this Shimano and the Temple Reef rod, I've got 30-pound J-braid. I run 30. It's a comfortable number for me. I can get the jigs that I want to the bottom without scoping out too much line. Off of my 30-pound J-braid, I go to an FG knot going to my leader. On this right now, I've got 60-pound diamond fluorocarbon. With jigging, you really want to use fluorocarbon. Mono's got too much stretch. And with the things that you're doing with the jigs, you don't want the stretch that mono gives you when you're trying to jig. It just puts a little bit too much play in your jigs, and when you're trying to fight the fish, you don't want those things to stretch out and then over time lead to breakage. With my leaders, I typically run 9 feet of a leader off of my rod. I do that for several reasons. It gives you the advantage of the fluorocarbon of it being almost invisible at depth, but then also at the same time, you'll notice when you start jigging, the first part of your leader will start getting chafed up right here. So then if I've got a long leader, I can cut a section off, go right back, tie my ball bearing swivel on with my hooks, and I'm right back to fishing really quick, versus if you're only running a 3 or 4 foot section of fluorocarbon and that gets chafed off 6 inches, you're really soon, before the end of the day, you're having to go back, tie a new leader on, and you're out of the game for 15-20 minutes by the time you get done setting up. The other thing I do is I run a Palomar knot onto my ball bearing swivels. The reason I do that personally is I think having that double line on the metal ball bearing swivel, to me, is a little bit of an advantage versus a single loop knot through that hole. It gives you a second point of contact on that. It gives you less chafing possibilities. So that's the things I do that. I hope you guys are finding an interest in the slow pitch jigging. We have really started enjoying it the more we've learned about it. I hope you guys look forward to the next couple series in this. In the next video, we're going to talk strictly about jigs, jig selection, when I use them, what I use, how I decide when we get to the fishing grounds which jig I'm putting on first. We're going to go through those things. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to us. We're open books. No problem helping out. Look forward to it. See y'all next time. Bye.
As always, I want to tell you thank you very much for watching our videos. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any tips or tricks or suggestions or anything that you think would help us, or if you have any questions, post it in the comments. Hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We got some more content coming. I think here in the near future, Ben's going to start his own channel, so go give him some support. I'll link his social media in the description below. We love you guys. See you on the next one.